Alrighty, we've got our Chapter 8 projects here, so let's get right into it. We got the word counter program. So right here we import the scanner to get keyboard input, and then we declare our word counter class. And now we have our count words method. It takes a string argument here and returns the number of words in it as an integer. Now, the way we do this is we split up the words, or the string, into an array of words, and we do this by using the space character as the rejects for the split method. Now, what we have here, we check to make sure that they didn't just enter spaces. So if the length of the strings array here is greater than 0, because the way this works, if they just enter spaces, it'll say that there aren't any words in it. And that would throw an error right here where I check the first element of the array. So I go and make sure that. So if they did enter something other than spaces, and this is also a problem if they entered an empty string, so just nothing, that would also cause issues because it would think that there was one word in it, and that's not true either. So I made sure of that here. And if there is just an empty string, it'll return 0 for the number of words. Otherwise, it'll return the number of words, which is the length of the strings array. And if they entered only spaces, then it'll return 0 for the number of words as well. So down here now, we'll create a scanner object to get keyboard input, and then we'll create a word counter object to access the count words method. We declare a string here called input to hold the user's input. And now we ask the user to enter a string, which is it contains words separated by spaces. And we store that in input. And then we display the number of words. And the way we do this, basically, we call the count words method on their input. And then see right here, that'll return that number of words, which will be concatenated with this message right here to the user. So let's check that out. Enter a string that contains words separated by spaces. There we go. So that should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the string that you entered had 5 words in it. Correct. And this one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hopefully I can count. Oh. Just accidentally run the program again. Yep, 7 words in it. So there we go, and that's the word counter method. And also to illustrate this other errors, if you enter nothing, it'll say that there's 0 words. And if you enter a space, the string that you entered had 0 words in it. And alright, so the password verifier right here. So now we import the scanner to get keyboard input. And now we have our password verifier class, and it has a verify method that takes the password. It takes a string as an argument, which should be the password. And here we have our flag variable valid, and it's going to tell us whether or not the password's valid. And we set that equal to false to say that it's invalid. And then we compare their password to this criteria. And if it matches all the criteria, then we say that it is valid. Okay, so if the password is greater than or equal to 6 characters, if it's at least 6 characters long, if it has at least 1 uppercase character, if it has 1 lowercase letter, or 1 lowercase character, and if it contains at least 1 digit, then we say that it's valid. And now, if it is valid, then we display that it's valid. And if it's not valid, then we display that it's invalid. So now we create a new scanner here to get keyboard input, and a new password verifier so that we can access the verify method. And we ask the user to enter a password to be verified, and we call the verify method on the next thing that they enter. Their password to be verified. Let's try, I know this will work. Password 1. That's a valid password because it contains 1. It's at least 6 characters long. It contains an uppercase letter, a lowercase letter, and a digit. But if we said password 1, invalid password, invalid password, invalid password, and if we were to enter something, invalid password. It's less than 6 characters, just doesn't have any letters in it. Alright, so I thought I'd spotted an error there, so I had to kind of pause it and think about it, but that is correct. So right here, I was afraid that it wouldn't be able to tell that there were characters in it and that it would accept 6 digits or more. Just like a 6-digit, well, a 6-character password that just contained digits, but it won't, and that's because of this right here. It checks if it was just digits, then the password would be equal to the result of calling the lowercase method or the uppercase method on the password. So it does at least have to have 1, and even if it was like a lowercase and then some digits here, it would still be invalid because it doesn't pass those tests. That kind of threw me for a loop for a minute. So there we go, that's the password verifier. And now the number sum program. Alright, so we import the scanner to get keyboard input, and we declare our number sum class. And it has a sum method that accepts a string, here's an argument, and returns the sum of all the numbers in it separated by commas. Okay, so it's kind of similar to the word counter in a way. We split up the entire string into different numbers. And the way we do this is that we use the comma here, the comma character as the regex, and that splits it up into numbers. And each number is stored in an element in this nums array here. Alright, now we have our total variable, and this is what will be returned in a second. And we iterate through the entire nums array, and for each element here, for each number, we would parse that number, so integer.parseInt nums I, and then we add that to the total. And then we return the total, and that would be the sum. That total there is the sum of all the numbers. Alright, so now we declare a scanner called key to get keyboard input, and we create a number sum object so we can get the sum method. And now we ask the user to enter numbers separated by commas, and we store, we determine here, we create total again at a different scope, and we set that equal to the sum method called on the user's input, and then we display the sum of the numbers. So let's test that out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, and that is correct. I added that on my calculator, and this will also work with with multiple digit numbers. Actually, when I was developing this, I had some troubles with that, and that works as well. So there we go, that's the number sum method, and that concludes the Chapter 8 projects.